Good afternoon and welcome to the final edition of KSC TV News for this semester. I'm Sydney Robinson. Thanks for tuning in this evening. We begin this afternoon with a major announcement about graduation plans here at KSC. Graduating seniors will be allowed to bring guests to graduation if those guests meet specific COVID-19 requirements. President Melinda Treadwell made the announcement Wednesday. Here are those requirements. Each graduate will be able to invite 2 guests only. Those guests will be required to show either a negative PCR test result taken May 25th or later, or they must show proof of being fully vaccinated. You are fully vaccinated 2 weeks after the second dose of Pfizer or Moderna, or the single dose of Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The college will also be relaxing the spacing requirement from 6 feet to just 3 feet for guest seating at the ceremony. In her statement announcing the change, President Treadwell wrote, "Our protocols have been adequate. We are seeing case rates starting to stabilize for us again. There are no zero-risk options. But the benefit to the graduating class is so high for them to have some loved ones with them, we'd like to try." Up until this week, President Treadwell had said that graduation attendance would be limited to graduating seniors, faculty, and staff only. Seniors we talked to say they are happy about this last-minute change that will allow some family to attend.
Obviously it was wicked upsetting that we wouldn't be able to have guests, so everyone was kind of upset about graduation, but it is so nice that we can have our parents, even just our parents, be there to watch it, as it's a big accomplishment.
I was happy, and I also didn't expect that we would be able to have that, because I heard that it was maybe even going to be canceled or something if Corona got worse. But I was shocked, and I'm happy that we're able to have our friends and family come.
Graduation is scheduled for Saturday, May 29th. The 2020-2021 school year will go down as one of the costliest in KSC history due to the pandemic. The school has already spent more than $5 million on testing alone, and there are numerous other costs still to be calculated. KSC TV's Adriana Daniel is live in the studio with more on that.
Thank you, Sydney. Students get tested twice per week. If there is a positive result, the student must go into quarantine for up to 10 days. The college has taken on the responsibility and cost of caring for those students during that time. Since students in quarantine cannot get out to go to the dining commons or grocery store, the college has been delivering meals to isolation buildings and groceries to off-campus apartments. The college can recover costs for students with meal plans, but not everyone has a meal plan. In that case, the college covers the cost, and there's no guarantee the college will get reimbursed.
And then at the end of the year, when we have a sense of, okay, how much did all of this really cost? We're hoping that maybe there's an opportunity for us to recoup some of that with some of the sort of federal, COVID-related kind of CARES dollars or some of those other pieces. There may not be, and it may just be that the dining program has to sort of has covered it, but it's the right thing to do. So that's kind of where we got to okay, if somebody needs food, we're doing it.
Students who do have a meal plan will receive a deduction in meal swipes while in quarantine or isolation for their meals, but no students are charged over and above that. Live in studio, Adriana Daniel, KSC TV.
Currently, there are no federal grants helping the college cover the cost of feeding students. Keene State is reviewing other dining changes that came about due to the pandemic. This could have an effect on dining choices in the future. Dining managers say to-go options saw much more interest this year. New additions like the Fry Shack and Melt Lab in Lloyd's were well received. Boost Mobile Ordering has even managed to cut down the infamous line at Starbucks. But what really stood out was a development at Hoot and Scoot.
They had pitched a bunch of different things. What do you think about these? What do you think students would like? And the overwhelming response from those folks and those student leaders was something that's similar to a Chipotle. And so that was implemented specifically off of that student input and feedback, and has gone really well.
Due to the Sono concept being so successful, dining managers plan to experiment with a few other concepts like it in the upcoming semesters. Tuesday, we told you about the first exhibit at the Thorne Sagendorf Art Gallery in nearly 2 years. It's the Emerging Arts exhibit, and earlier this week, I got to walk through and see how it's running under COVID-19 precautions. Student exhibitors told me that while they're happy to show their work, it's bittersweet because the audience is severely limited. The Senior Studio Art class is showcasing their work in the Emerging Art exhibit at the Thorne-Sagendorf Art Gallery. The exhibit features a variety of paintings, drawings, sculptures, ceramics, printmaking, and more by 12 art students. The exhibit also includes artwork by last year's graduates who were unable to showcase their work because of the pandemic. Many art students this semester are also disappointed by COVID limitations.
It's different because we can't have, family and friends come on campus to see the show. So normally there would be a big opening with a lot of family and friends. But right now it's just people with wristbands.
The senior studio professor says there is a huge downside for students who created installation-specific pieces.
V. Hashimoto's work, she had that whole painting done in there. And if, her family can't come and see it, it's not something that she can take home to show them later.
The class adapted to these challenges and created a live stream of the exhibit for family and friends to view virtually.
On the Thorne-Sagendorf website, or on the Facebook site, there's a link to actually I guess it was a live event when it happened, but it was the opening reception from last Friday.
Anyone without a KSC wristband can view the saved video and interact with this exhibit virtually at facebook.com/Thorne-Sagendorf Art Gallery. Again, that's facebook.com/Thorne-Sagendorf Art Gallery. Sydney Robinson, KSC TV. If you do have a KSC wristband, you can visit the Emerging Art exhibit in person until May 27th. On Mondays and Wednesdays, the gallery will be open between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, the gallery will be open between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. The southern United States is starting to recover after the Colonial Pipeline shutdown caused chaos there in the last few weeks. And while there have been rumors saying the effects of the pipeline shutdown might be felt in New England, experts are now saying that that is not the case. Rise in New England, it's not because of any gasoline shortage. AAA Representative Pat Moody says the recent rise in New England gas prices has to do with supply and demand, and that most fuel in the Northeast comes from foreign imports rather than the Colonial Pipeline. So there is no need to worry about gas shortages up here for now. But Moody says if you're traveling down south anytime soon, it would be smart to plan ahead.
So make your vehicle as fuel efficient as you possibly can. Take the most fuel efficient vehicle if you have an option, and then make sure that the vehicle is maintained appropriately. Tires are at the right level. Reduce the amount of time you use your air conditioner if all possible, because that will also make your car less fuel efficient.
GasPrices.AAA.com shows that out of all states in New England, New Hampshire currently has the lowest price per gallon of fuel at around $2.90. If you want to track gas prices, that website is GasPrices.AAA.com. Again, that's GasPrices.AAA.com. A century-old Keene property is here to stay. KSC TV's Christian Valentin shows us what makes this Court Street property so significant.
A homegrown Keene family has placed a preservation easement on 150 Court Street. The Keene Sentinel reports the Putnam family has partnered with the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance to ensure the protection of the standout Victorian architecture. Alliance Executive Director Jennifer Goodman says that the easement can protect the property for as long as the owners want it to.
It's individually crafted. It protects the features that are significant, that the owners, like in this case, the Putnam family, want to protect into the future. They can be permanent, and they go with the property on the deed. So they stick with the property no matter who the owner and what they use.
Property owner Jim Putnam says the easement applies not only to the one house, but also the whole 1.5 acre long property. Putnam adds that the kind of craftsmanship on the property is rarely seen nowadays.
This is a particularly beautiful old Victorian house with some special woodwork features inside and in the floors and the paneling.
Putnam says he grew up in the home, and being able to share it with his siblings along with their families has breathed new life into the property. Family member Emily Ann Jacobs adds that being able to be with the whole family is even more of a gift during COVID.
So many people have been so isolated, so to be all together, but also to be here in this house where my husband's grandparents raised their family, and the kids, my kids their bedroom is the same bedroom that their grandmother grew up in. So that feels pretty profound.
The property has also been nominated for the National Register of Historic Places. Christian Valentin, KSC TV.
For more information on other historical properties in New Hampshire, you can visit nhpreservation.org. Again, that's nhpreservation.org. Keene State College's Spring Carnival made a return this year after getting canceled last year due to the pandemic. KSC TV's Lauren Pierce talked to student government and students on how this event was able to take place and the excitement behind it all.
The annual end-of-the-year carnival, organized by Keene State Student Government, lasted from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock last Friday. The theme of the carnival this year is Around the World, offering free games, raffles, food, and so much more. Student Body Vice President Caitlin McCracken says the annual event looked a lot different this year due to COVID-19 and following guidelines.
So we'll have different eating areas designated for people. We've worked with the dining team to make sure that food is harder to eat while you're walking, so that people are kind of forced to sit down and eat it, so that they're not unmasked and walking across campus. And we're going to have different markers for 6 feet placements so that lines aren't a big clump of people.
Keene State junior Melissa Richards said that she is just excited to have some sense of normality on campus this year.
Everyone was just really happy to have an event on campus, I think. It's been a really long road with COVID, and everyone's just happy that life is somewhat getting back to normal.
In previous years, the Spring Carnival offered 3 rides, the Scrambler, the Ferris wheel, and the Super Slide. McCracken says offering rides this year would be nearly impossible with COVID-19 guidelines.
So normally in previous years we have carnival rides like the Ferris wheel and the slide games and all that. But with COVID and having to clean after everybody after each individual use, we quickly realized that was not going to be possible with the staffing needed to clean.
Keene State junior Tyler Young says he is sad the carnival is not the way it used to be, but is still happy student government is putting on the event.
It's definitely a little different, but I'm just glad that we got to have some sort of an event in person. I know it's been kind of back and forth with in person and remote, so I'm glad that the school and the student body was able to provide us with a in-person event.
On a beautiful 70-degree day like today, students gathered on campus for the first event this spring, an optimistic sign for the upcoming fall semester going back to normal. Lauren Pierce, KSC TV.
This is our last newscast of the 2020-2021 academic year. It's our tradition to end this show by recognizing our graduating seniors. We'll have them come out here on the KSC TV news set for one last final bow. This year's seniors are Matt Holderman, Tyler DeRosa, Henry Hobson, Claire Boughton, Haley Harding Rogers, Austin Cook, Rachel Thurston, Adriana Daniel, and Joe Fletcher. That's all for this edition of KSC TV. We want to thank you for following us all semester. We will be back in the fall with another season. Until then, have a great summer.
Good evening and welcome to the May 13th edition of KSC TV News. I'm Matt Holderman.
And I'm Henry Hobson. Thanks for tuning in this evening.
Active COVID-19 cases are on the rise here on campus, and the college is responding. Last week, KSC reported 47 active cases at midweek. Now, that number has passed 60. Right now, there are 61 active cases in the KSC population. 38 of those cases involve on-campus students. 23 are off-campus students. There are no employees in the active case count this week. Those 61 active cases are 14 cases more than what the college reported a week ago. That's when President Melinda Treadwell made significant restrictions to indoor activities because of what was then described as an increase of cases. But Wednesday, President Treadwell released this statement announcing a return to normal operations. The president wrote, "Thus far, there is a notable decrease in positive test results relative to last week, and our upper respiratory infection clinic has capacity." KSC-TV asked for a clarification due to the apparent discrepancy between an active case increase and the president's statement that positive test results have decreased. This afternoon, spokesperson Kelly Riccardi told us the decrease is in the daily numbers rather than the weekly total count. 1 week ago, the campus had just seen a 28 case increase in the most recent daily count. This week, that daily increase was just 15. That is the positive test result decrease referenced in President Treadwell's statement. Last week, the COVID spike began when new infections hit nearly 50 for the week. That caused an immediate change to campus operations. KSC-TV's Clara Boughton shows us how the campus changed virtually overnight.
Campus operations took a swift turn on May 6th when the COVID spike was confirmed. KSC President Melinda Treadwell sent out an email announcing immediate changes to ongoing campus operations and one-day events coming up that weekend. Operational changes included all dining services being turned into takeout only and access to the recreation center being put on a pause. Director of Recreational and Intramural Sports, Lynn Andrews, says that the recreation center being closed resulted in the college trying to mitigate group gathering locations. Andrews says that although the semester was wrapping up, the changes are still affecting gym regulars who use the recreation center as a place to release stress.
Well, I think the students that have been working out regularly, I think, that impacts their, just their routines. If they come work out first thing in the morning, if they come in the afternoon, it gives them the break in between classes or work.
Another big change the campus saw was events originally being held within the student center were forced to move outside. Several large events that took place over this past weekend were moved out onto Appian Way, including the Academic Excellence Conference and the Graphic Design Portfolio event. Portions of the Academic Excellence Conference were also held virtually to avoid large groups gathering in classrooms. President Treadwell said last week that all operational changes will be in place until today, May 13th. But COVID Task Force leader Dr. Wayne Hartz says that if the college does not see a decrease in cases by that date, more drastic actions may have to take place.
Worst comes to worst, we'll have to close a campus. If this gets out of control, we'll just have to close early. We did that last spring. The president is part of our COVID leadership team, and she says, I don't care about commencement. I don't care about anything else. We have a commitment we have an obligation, a commitment to minimize infection, the same way we started this process. And just because we're within, 3 weeks of commencement, we're not going to shortcut the process.
For now, that process includes asking students to remain socially distanced whenever possible and to always wear masks when around others. Clara Boughton, KSC-TV.
The college is just over a week away from finals and 2 weeks away from graduation. Administrators say the goal is to keep students on campus and to finish the semester with an in-person limited audience. Graduation. Treadwell says with 50 new positive cases last week, the best option was to close places on campus where students are predominantly at high risk. But KSC does not plan on keeping everything closed for the remainder of the school year.
So my hope is we'll meet later today to see what yesterday and today bring, and then we'll meet again tomorrow afternoon. And if the cases have stabilized, we'll move back to open dining commons, open gym, open student center, and just keep monitoring as we move through the semester. So it's very quick.
All of this comes at the end of a full year of navigating the challenges of going to a college in the middle of a pandemic. KSC TV's Hunter Oberst looks back at the last year, all of its adjustments and changes, and forward to what COVID precautions could remain next year.
Keene State has certainly had an unorthodox year. The pandemic forced colleges and universities across the nation to enforce policies and restrictions in order to stay open. Here at Keene State, masks were constant companions for all staff and students. Weekly testing and hybrid learning models were also part of the new normal. Now, just 2 weeks from graduation, Keene State President Melinda Treadwell is calling this challenging year a success.
Our students, since the beginning, have told me and others that they care about each other and they care about being part of a community, that they don't create risk. That has been said to me and it's been lived, and I'm really proud of that. So all of you have exceeded my expectations that we did this, and we did it, and I think we're the safest campus in the state, and I'm proud of that.
KSC has managed to keep case counts low for the academic year, especially compared to other USNH campuses. Looking at both the fall and spring semesters, Keene has had nearly 3 times fewer cases than Plymouth State University and almost 9 times fewer cases than UNH. But Keene is dealing now with a late semester surge. Last week, the college reported 47 active cases and 82 quarantines just weeks before the end of the semester, the highest numbers have been all year. These numbers have some worried that Keene may not be able to finish the semester in person.
There's just a bunch of schools that had a huge outbreak. We might hit that despite all of our controls. Personally, I'll be really sad and disappointed if we do hit that. I'll be disappointed and sad that we don't get to commencement.
President Treadwell says that despite the obstacles of the year, reopening the college was the best option for students and staff.
This has been a hard year for all of us. We're all exhausted. We're all feeling weird about being close to each other, and yet it's better than being alone. I just think it's really, I think it has been worth it.
Most students seem to agree.
I feel like that they did the best for the student base in general, both safety-wise and giving us the best access to a viable sort of regular sort of year here at Keene State.
I think the school did fine. We've only had a couple of outbreaks really, but it was more a lot of schools did so much worse. So
I'm hoping that my next 3 years are going to be as normal as possible, so I have that in the back of my head, just knowing that it's going to be okay eventually. But yeah, it's definitely sad that my first year wasn't how I wished it would be, but that's okay. I'm not that concerned about it.
President Treadwell says the college will discuss possibly requiring students to be vaccinated before returning in the fall. There are several medical and legal issues to be ironed out in such a policy, but it will be discussed over the summer. She says that students who get vaccinated can look forward to loosened restrictions next fall.
For individuals who are vaccinated, waiver of the quarantine requirements if you're a close contact because they're that effective. You don't need to be tested each week. You'll have a random surveillance. It's a very different experience with vaccinated individuals.
To limit the spread of infection amid the latest outbreak, the college has limited access to the Zorn Dining Commons, the Recreation Center, and the Student Center right behind me. Hunter Oberst, KSC TV.
The Keene State Athletic Department has just wrapped up its competition year. It was a year full of challenges brought on by the pandemic. Keene State Athletic Director Phil Rassicott and other members of the KSC athletic staff have been working hard to make sports this semester a reality. For this to happen, there needed to be a full cooperation from both the staff and students. Rassicott says he appreciates the work of the COVID committee this year to mitigate risk, and he appreciates the work of his staff to implement protocols.
Unbelievable job in athletic training, helping to coordinate all the various protocols and educate students. And then clearly the coaches adjusted and adapted in every which way they could to make this make it a reality.
President Treadwell has said she wants a return to normal operations in the fall, including a full athletic schedule. Rassicott says he'll be working over the summer with staff to design protocols for the fall so that can happen. Already, he says the NCAA will allow vaccinated students to be exempt from testing. More new protocols are expected to be announced over the summer.
The number of new COVID cases in the Granite State went down again this week. However, the number of deaths did increase. As of Wednesday, 174 new cases have been reported for the week. The state recorded 4 new deaths. All the deaths were people aged 60 and older. Right now, there are 63 people hospitalized statewide with COVID-19. The City of Keene's mask mandate may be changing soon. The Sentinel reports Mayor George Hansel brought an amended version of the ordinance to the City Council on Thursday. The new proposal would remove the provision that requires masks to be worn outdoors. The ordinance must be read in front of the full City Council twice before it can be passed because of the city rules. If the ordinance is changed, it will take 4 weeks for it to take effect because of those rules. Meanwhile, the state of New Hampshire has dropped its mandates for COVID-19 protocols, like wearing masks and social distancing. WMUR reports that this comes as 62% of New Hampshire residents have received their first vaccine dose. 26% of New Hampshire residents are now fully vaccinated. The state is also introducing guidelines to help businesses with the reopening process. Governor Sununu says that he is optimistic about how the state will handle COVID-19 over the summer months.
The hotel and hospitality industry is starting to regain footing after an extremely challenging year. Travel restrictions at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic caused the hotel business to suffer. Many hotels lost staff and closed down as a result of the decrease in business. The Keene Best Western Hotel closed for a short time at the beginning of the pandemic and reopened in June 2020. Best Western's business has just started to pick up after having their first sold-out weekend this month since reopening. People in the hotel industry are cautiously optimistic about the improving signs.
I think it'll get better, especially with the vaccine and people are just kind of itching to travel again. I don't necessarily think for Keene, New Hampshire that's going to be part of that boom, but I definitely think that just the hotel industry in general will be.
While there are those signs of improving, U.S. News reports the hotel and hospitality industry is not expected to make a full recovery until 2024. An industry that has seen a surge in business during the pandemic, though, has been the packaging and shipping industry. That's good for the bottom line of these businesses, but they face some significant challenges in day-to-day operations. KSC TV's Rachel Thurston talked to one local shipping business owner about how he's making it through this challenging time.
Bryant Bollier is the president of Shipping Shack and has worked in the mail service for the last 12 years. He says that because of the pandemic, prices have gone up and on-time deliveries are not on time.
The on-time delivery is not on time. Nobody is guaranteeing any deliveries for anything, whether it's overnight or a 3-day.
Bollier says he thinks that the COVID impact on mail services was not met with enough support by the government. He says that the U.S. mail system was not prepared for a pandemic. Because of this, small businesses across New England have had to look to each other for support.
Anybody that ships through us, anybody at all, can call us for help. And although we're probably in the same situation they are, with limited resources, we at least take the burden off them by putting it on us to find out what's going on and how do we take steps to improve the delivery service.
Early into the pandemic, Shipping Shack required masks in their building before the state or city required it. They also combated the virus by strictly following the CDC COVID-19 guidelines. Bollier says he feels fortunate he has not had to shut down business and has not lost anyone to the virus.
And I'm glad that the state and the city have left it up to each individual owner to kind of guide themselves, and because we not only have to protect ourselves, but we have to protect everybody that comes in the shop. And we have easily 100 to 200 people come in here every day.
Keene State junior Alana LaHoulier is one of those who finds herself ordering more products by mail and worrying more often whether or not those products will arrive.
I feel like there hasn't been much of a focus on getting mail in at a reasonable time from the government that I've seen.
I'm here standing in front of the Shipping Shack, Keene's local packaging and shipping center. Currently, they are seeing twice the business they usually do, therefore doubling the workload for employees. Yet, through this hard time, they are continuing to work hard for the Keene community. Rachel Thurston, KSC TV.
City Council has approved a plan for a community power program. The Sentinel reports, the program is part of the city's sweeping energy plan passed in January. Keene is the first New Hampshire municipality to adopt a program like this since 2019. It allows Keene to purchase electricity on behalf of consumers and gives more say in where power is used and comes from. The city aims to have 100% renewable sourcing for electricity by 2030 and thermal and transportation energy by 2050.
A Keene City Councilor is probably amped up after winning $19,000 worth of wine. The Sentinel reports Mike Giacomo took home the prize after winning the New Hampshire Liquor Commission's annual raffle. The Cheers for Charity contest featured 52 rare wines and spirits. Tickets were purchased at $50 apiece, and participants had to choose between the wine and $30,000 spirit packages. The $200,000 raised that evening will be donated to the New Hampshire Food Band and Easter Seals, New Hampshire.
The local auto racing community is remembering a local racing legend. Herbert Rusty Ball died unexpectedly at age 68 last month. The Sentinel reports that Ball was well known in the Monadnock area's racing scene. Ball was best known for his love of cars and stock car racing. He was voted most popular driver by the fans at Claremont Motorsports Park 4 years in a row. After his funeral, Ball's car took its final lap at Monadnock Speedway, with the hearse following behind.
The Spalding Gymnasium pool is getting renovated this summer. KSC TV's Quint Kimmel has details on the project and how it should improve pool operations when it's done.
There's no water and certainly no swimmers and divers in the Spalding Gym pool right now. That's because the pool is in an early phases of a complete remodel.
Because of that, it was something that has been in need of that facility for, honestly, decades.
Andrews had hoped to see this project started last year, but Spalding Gym became a hospital overflow standby center in the first months of the pandemic. That's put the project off another year. It got started as soon as the varsity season ended this year. Better ventilation is one of the major improvements in the $750,000 upgrade. And club team head coach Jack Fabian says his swimmers are excited to have a new pool in the fall.
I think they're very eager to come back. I think it's been a hard year for them, and I hope we still have the team, at the end of all this.
Renovations for the pool behind me will be finished in fall 2021. Quinn Kimmel, KSC TV.
After coaching for over 30 years, Coach Ken Howe is retiring from Keene State College baseball. He coached his final game over the weekend here at home. That last game was a doubleheader against UMass Boston, in which KSC lost both games. Coach Howe ends his coaching career accumulating 584 victories for KSC. KSC plans to announce a new coach before the 2022 season begins next March.
The Keene State Theater and Dance Department is celebrating the return of a spring tradition. Over the weekend, the dance department held its annual Evening of Dance showcase after a year off due to COVID-19. Dancers returned to stage both Friday and Saturday night. The showcase allows students, faculty, and guest artists to show what they've been working on all semester through modern dance. The 46-year campus tradition got interrupted last year due to the pandemic, but it returned this year with a few changes.
So many changes. So obviously masks. We actually had a meeting about that yesterday because the dancers are inhaling the masks so much. It's just really taxing. But also the distancing. So in choreography, we often are in contact, or just the way we choreograph proximity is a big part of the equation. And so this year, having to keep at least 6 feet distance just became another sort of parameter in the artistic equation that we had to deal with.
Evening of Dance was open to a live audience, as well as available to live stream. That's all for this edition of KSC TV. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll be back next week at this same time. We'll see you then and have a good evening.